I'm Gail Pidduck. I was born in Santa Paula in 1950 on a ranch west of town. My father was a farmer and my mom was a seamstress. When I was in high school and the first few years of college, I worked every summer at Burpee Seed Company. And I had a great job. I worked for a woman who was a plant breeder from Philadelphia, and she would come out every summer. I loved working out there. I loved just walking around outside all day long and playing with the flowers. So I think that, and then growing up, in the middle of an orchard, it's what I know. It's what I grew up seeing. And I think at least a lot of my friends who are painters, that's what they paint, is what they know. I am a ruralist painter. I don't paint city scenes much. I've done a couple. I am drawn to the rural areas. And I think my time at Burpee Seed made me really appreciate people who work in the fields, and that was a big part of my painting life for a long time, was painting field workers and our rural landscape. When I was in college, I wanted to be a potter. And that was I took probably more pottery classes than anything else. And actually, after I got married and moved back here, I bought a wheel and tried to make it go, but I couldn't afford a kiln, and the closest kiln was in Ventura, and it didn't work. And then I took up weaving, and I wanted to be a weaver. I love the crafts. If I was good, I would love to be a potter or a jewelry maker or a weaver. But all of those things required more than I could do with kids around. And painting, especially oil painting, I chose because I could leave it and come back to it. When I start to paint, I guess it starts before I start. There's something I want to paint, so an idea. And then I like working on board versus canvas. I still work on canvas if it's something big, because it's unwieldy to work on the board, but canvas is more destructible. This is safer. I can pretty much throw these around. I usually tone the canvas, the board, if I'm doing a landscape with some kind of a warm color, if I'm doing a portrait with some kind of a cool green color. Just allows, after you start, for the color to show through versus the white board. And also I think there's something psychological about once there's something on the board, it's less scary. It's like once there's a word on the paper, it's easier to start writing. So then I start with a board like this. I'll draw in what I'm going to do with, I used to do it with charcoal or a pencil. Now I just use a brush. After I start, then I just keep working layer upon layer till I get where I think it's okay. And there's a lot of redoing, changing, and I think that's one of the wonderful things about painting, is it's sort of the way life is. You just keep changing things till it works. I had a painting in a show in Utah and was given an award by another painter who was judging the show, and so I asked to meet him and went to meet him. And he's a wonderful writer too. And he'd had some financial reversals, and so it had to move from a beautiful place where he looked out over these canyons to a condo, and yet he was a happy person still painting, and really inspired me to paint what was around me and to look closely at what I had around me. So basically what it ended up being was my distant views of where we live, and then just things that I saw around me. And it's ended up being a lot of birds and cactus, which is kind of interesting. This is a work of Roydencard, and he's the gentleman who I met. And when I read his thoughts, I felt like it was me. And I love that he says, "One touch of nature makes all men kin," Shakespeare wrote. "One look at nature makes painting sin. I cannot touch that glory, but life would go out of me if I did not try. God, you have made the world too beautiful." And that's how I feel. I feel like I can never paint what I really want, but I can't quit trying. You know what I love most about being a painter? It keeps me sane. Honestly, I don't know what people do who don't have a creative outlet. Because as I paint, I can work through a painting. And for some reason, working through paintings also helps me work through what's going on in my life. I suggest anyone who doesn't have a creative outlet to find one. The problem of being an artist, the most it's done for me is given me a real appreciation of other people's beautiful work. One of the most exciting things about this show is that I get to have a room full of art of other people. So I picked people whose work I have just admired. I didn't pick any painters, and maybe I'm a little selfish. I wanted to be the painter, but I wanted to showcase other kinds of craft and art, so that children coming to the museum would see that there's more than one way to create. There's something about having someone else's view of the world on your wall or on your table that enriches your life.